You're watching Common Ground, where we talk about the hot button topics of today
from a liberal
and conservative point of view.
I'm James Lacroix.
And I'm Mimzi Moon. So join us as we bridge the gap and try to find some common ground. All right, and welcome to our third episode of Common Ground. Today, our topic is going to be Trump.
The one and only.
Yes, and you might think, see my background? There he is, the man himself.
Yeah, he's coming for me.
That background almost scares me, and I voted for him.
That's valid.
I'm going to admit something to you right now. I have this print hanging up in my living room. I do.
All right, well, you do you.
I got a little shrine up here, like it's got some bald eagles around it. Yep, it's right there.
He is my favorite supervillain, so.
Yeah, there you go. That's I like that.
So some people might think, like, why are you doing a video on Trump? That's not exactly a hot button issue.
Well, it kind of is, even if it's not.
Isn't it though? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's introduce our guest. This is Ryan Gilligan.
AKA Ryan Almighty. That's pretty much, if you Google me, that's how you're going to find
Ryan Almighty. All right. He's got a lot of things to promote. He is a tattoo artist. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ryan?
Well, I'm a professional weirdo. I've been a professional artist living completely off of artwork for over 30 years now. So
I support that. That's awesome.
Between tattooing, and then I also do human blood painting as well.
Ooh.
He's awesome. We're definitely going to put some links to his work in the description below, because I'm very impressed by what he does.
Not your average Trump voter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not. But you do definitely fit in with our major alternative aesthetic. So
I think that's one of the reasons that Ryan reached out to me. Because
yeah, definitely. I really love what you guys are doing, because, all kidding aside, all debate aside, and differences of opinions, the fact that you guys can do a show, completely come from different political views, and get along at the end and be besties when it's all over with, really is a message people need to see.
Thank you.
And emulate, because there's way too much tribalism. There's way too much fighting. The anger and hate on both sides are absolutely insane right now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
So cheers to you guys. That's the reason I really want to do the show. When Mimzi told me about it, I'm thoroughly impressed with what you guys are doing.
And me and Mimzi get along just fine, despite being on opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Well, and that's how it should be. My best friend in the world completely.
Yeah, and you told me about your communist friend, so I'm like.
Well, I don't know if he's would call himself an anarcho-communist now that he's 53, but that's what he was in college.
Yeah, fair enough. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Dana, shout out to you. I'm sure you're not ashamed of being outed as a commie.
In future episodes, I'd like to have a commie.
Yeah, we can have like a communist or something.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. But for today's topic, I think there's a lot to explore here. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Trump's not president anymore. And even Ryan said that. Well, why are we even doing a show on this? Trump's not even president anymore.
Because people still have opinions about it. That's why.
People, we didn't just go away. All the thoughts and all the feelings and all the emotions around it. It didn't just go away.
Right.
And just pushing something under the rug like that, it might not be the healthiest thing to do. Let's bring things out into the open and talk about them instead of just saying, oh, it's over. I mean, it's still dividing us to this day, obviously.
The way I see it is
Trumpism is still a thing, even if Trump's no longer our president.
If we're not going to learn a lesson from it, then I don't see the point in having having political conversations in the first place. Like, the lessons that we learn are from the presidents that we have and what they did and how people reacted to it. And so the lesson here is in regards to, like, if I'm going to defend my position that I think Trump was a bad president, then the lessons that I want to impart are why that is. And so we don't make the same mistake in voting for him again. And if you guys are going to defend the position that he is a good president, then by the same token, you're going to be explaining why the things that he did were good, so that we know who to vote for that also is going to do those things, right?
Right.
Exactly.
And I've been very tribalistic about this.
Have you?
Yes. I'm here to admit that. Like, my whole life is a learning experience. I'm all about growing and expanding my mind, and I don't mind doing it in front of an audience, if other people could get something out of it. I'm not saying I'm here to have my mind changed. I know I'm wrong. Change me, you know, but
You're not Steven Crowder, which
I was going to say, you're not going to be a Crowder, are you?
no, but I mean, I'm not saying
not that he's
I'm
actually
away from
genuinely
this.
trying to get his mind changed, to be honest. But anyway,
No, he's not at all.
But he doesn't get his mind changed so well.
Yeah.
exactly.
No intention. All right, I think James wanted to start the show with an axiom.
Yes.
So you want to explain what you mean by that?
Basically, this is my position and the reason why, like at the core, I think what I think. Like that's basically like what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
I want everyone to be able to have a chance to express that.
First, so we know.
Okay, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think Trump was a good president. I did not vote for him either time that he was running. I don't necessarily think Biden is a great president. He's just the lesser of two evils to me. I am a liberal, so I usually vote Democrat, even though Democrat is a shitty party. They have the closest thing to liberal ideas. And therefore, like, even when they're not doing the kinds of policies that I want, their policies are at least closer to what I would like to see. And I don't feel, the thing is, I'm a progressive. Like that's what, like 100% how I would identify my politics is progressive. And at no point do Republicans seem to put forth progressive policies in my view. So therefore, I just don't vote for them. And the ones that Democrats put forth are not super progressive, but sometimes they're a little bit. So at least it's something. So that's pretty much it.
All right, let me see if I can define my axiom here.
Okay.
I wasn't political, and I've said this before on other videos, but before Trump woke up my political side. You know, I'd never been interested in politics before. Before Trump, I would have started to consider myself more conservative, but I didn't really relate that to politics. You know, I just related it to how I changed my mind and changed my life from the life that I had in the past. So when Trump became elected is when I became interested because he seemed so interesting. There was so much going on around him. I watched the election, you know, in 2016, and I became interested on that day, basically, because I was like, what, Trump? Like, God, he's our president? Like that guy from The Apprentice? Like, what the hell? What's happening? Right. So I just wanted to learn more. And I started looking at the news, and I realized that the news was all talking a bunch of shit about him. And I'm like, didn't he just get elected? Like, what's happening? Like, why is all the news, like the news that I never really watched before? I never watched the news. So I'm like, why are they hating on him? I said, certainly there has to be some sort of news program out there that likes him, right?
And that's how you found Fox News, I think.
Yes. And
a little bit of Hannity and Tucker.
I've never known about Fox News in the past. You know, I was just like, where, you know, I even had to look up on the internet what news program likes Trump or whatever, you know? And I'm like, oh, Fox News. Okay, I was right. There is somebody that likes him. And I just started watching it. And I got kind of glued to it. And I started identifying with it. And I just got really happy around Trump and the whole thing. I felt like I belonged somewhere. Everything that they were saying was making complete and total sense to me.
Can you give me some examples? Like in what way?
Basically, the message of personal responsibility that really hit home with me because of where I'd been, where I had come from. You know, as a I would say that I formerly very liberal-minded person. And that might not be your definition of what it means to be liberal-minded, but I was just like, if it feels good, do it, you know, type of person. Like, I didn't really believe in personal responsibility, or the thoughts never really crossed my mind. I was just like, live your life, girl, do you know, and it led me down a pretty bad path in life. And so when I learned something different from that, I really grabbed onto the whole personal responsibility thing. And so when I would see things that related to that coming from Fox News, like just anti-woke kind of stuff, I realized, you know, that kind of stuff, I was like, yeah, like stop blaming other people for your misfortune.
Yeah, that did start around that time period. Like those few years right there. Like that's when the like sort of social justice war kind of began. I feel like
Yeah.
so it makes sense that
So
that's
I just
taking your time.
I really just got in on the right hand side of that from watching Fox News because of where I come from and me wanting to just completely change who I had been. You know, I mean, I hope that kind of explains it. So, you know, I jumped on the Trump train at that point, and I really didn't bother to look at the other side. I kind of believed what I was hearing, and I'm still not saying that I was completely wrong in that. I'm not willing to come out and say like I was so wrong. Like that it's a side, it's a point I still identify with. I've since learned that Fox News is manipulating us just like CNN.
Just like every other news network.
Yes, you know, but I'm still not coming out as saying that I've completely changed. I'm no longer on the right. I no longer believe any of those.
I think you're still on the right from what I can tell from talking.
Yeah, I still am. That's where my heart is. Right. And I'm not, you know, and I'm not here to have my mind changed or to say, I'm sorry. I'm not here to make you do that. Tell me how to be, tell me how to, you know, my heart is on the right, but I want to move more towards the center. And okay. I am.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
All right. You go, Ryan.
I've always been a centrist anyway, so I can criticize the right and the left equally. But you know, I feel like I'm starting with a testimony. My name is Ryan Almighty, and I did vote for Trump. Yeah, I'll let you know kind of where I stand on things and how it progressed to the fact that because I didn't vote for him in 2016. I was in the Bay Area. I wasn't registered out there. I didn't really care about doing an absentee ballot. And I honestly thought at that point in the game that everything was rigged. I thought it was destined that Hillary was already chosen. She was going to get in. I didn't think Trump had a snowball chance in hell because of pretty much what the media was saying, but I wasn't all that political anyway. And I've never really been a conservative because I've had trouble with tribalism as far as religious fanatics go. And as I turned out, the super lefties kind of have all the same criteria as the religious fanatics do. You know, it's all focusing in on a narrative, putting blinders on for what you don't want to see and completely amplifying what you do. So I've always kind of been that fence sitter, criticizing both sides. So I can switch back and forth on that. But during the 2016 elections, I was in the Bay Area of California tattooing, which is, let's just face the facts, it's a hive of extreme left-wing politics.
Yeah, it's true.
So I just noticed just the vapid hatred that was going on, you know, for Trump. Now, I didn't have a problem with people criticizing Trump. I mean, he was definitely brazen. He was brash. He was kind of nasty, which I thought was funny. He made me laugh. I can't lie, because he would say the most outrageous things publicly. But people that also would say outrageous things seemed to hate him. And I didn't have a problem with them criticizing him, but they didn't just hate him. They hated anybody that voted for him, which was pretty much my entire rural family, who I know to be good people. So I just I started as kind of a ruse just to stir the shit pot in the shop. Oh, he's not that bad, is he? And you get absolute hate out of that, which I thought was funny. Well, I go full Monty when I'm going to do something like that. So I start researching and I start seeing these clips, you know, after he was elected, where they were saying, you know, he makes fun of the handicapped. And I researched that and I was like, well, that was kind of taken a little bit out of context. And that was a reporter that was basically caught lying about him. And that hand gesture thing he's done for other people.
Insulter.
Right. Well, anybody that attacks him, he's going to attack back.
Nobody's sacred to him. He'll take you on.
Right. And then I started just people were losing their minds. And I worked right next to somebody that was high ranking in Antifa. So I was in the Bay Area. I didn't even know
Antifa had ranks. According to Antifa,
guess what? Of course, they say that they're an idea, not an organization. That's to avoid RICO laws.
Just for the record, I'm not necessarily pro Antifa. Right, I'm not obviously pro-fascism, but I'm not. I think,
no, I mean, there's a difference between a word and a group of people, and they know that that's a loaded word. It's kind of like Black Lives Matter. Yeah, they have a word that you can't criticize because they can twist your words, but really,
you like fascism.
Exactly.
Don't matter.
Exactly.
Oh,
It's like, no, I don't like Marxist organizations that are they're misappropriating funds and manipulating people into violence. I don't like that.
No, I agree with you. I'm with you.
But anyway, but believe it or not, I got along really well. The guy that worked next to me, and he was, and I say high ranking because he was Yvette Falarca's basically her bodyguard. He was an MMA fighter. He was actually the Antifa guy that could fight.
Okay.
I actually was able to have a conversation more with him than the people that were around us kissing his ass. You know, he actually, I think, almost in a small way, understood that I had libertarian views, and we didn't completely agree, but we didn't completely disagree either. So, I mean, and speaking of which, yeah, I've always been kind of libertarian. I want less government. My stance has always been one nation under free speech with abortions and guns for all. Yeah, so,
I guess that's a good middle ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want more freedoms, not less. I want less government control, not more. And I was noticing, man, they're really attacking him, and I see the asshole part. I don't see this seething Nazi, fascist, racist, this phobic, this and that ist that people are accusing him of. And it got to the point where I noticed whenever there was a discussion, if you didn't agree with them, you got pegged with that. All of a sudden, you're a racist. All of a sudden, you're a fascist. All of a sudden, you're a Nazi. And I didn't really take, being that my great grandmother's Jewish, I don't really take kindly to being called a Nazi for not agreeing with people that are pseudo Marxists, which I don't think they've done their research as to what happened under Chairman Mao and Stalin and such.
Yeah.
There's a higher body count than Hitler had. And I'm not defending Hitler. I think authoritarianism on both sides are very dangerous and very bad.
No, yeah, I agree. And that's why I don't want like a communist or like a socialist country as a whole. Like I just want some balance. That's all I want.
Well, yeah, I mean, there should be some social programs. For example, I think abortions should be completely free, coming with a gift basket with $100 bill and a box of Chore Boy. We'd have no more crack babies.
There's we have common ground on that.
The box of Chore Boy, so the crack pipes.
That's going to have to be another episode.
Yeah. We will have an abortion episode, I'm sure.
But anyway, so I started just kind of getting fascinated with the whole cult of Bad Orange Man. And let's face it, in the Bay Area at that time, they were going and throwing tantrums because Milo Yiannopoulos was speaking, a Jewish gay guy that they were calling a fascist and a Nazi. Ann Coulter, I don't know if Gavin McGinnis spoke there, but there were severe tantrums. And I was sitting in the shop where they were gathering together saying, you know what, we're going to go punch Nazis. Everybody they disagreed with Nazis. And because of that thing that happened to Spencer, which was kind of funny, I have to admit, because
my opinion of that is it was funny and he did kind of deserve it, but I still don't agree with punching people because you decided they're a Nazi.
Right. Well, it happens. And that became a narrative. We're gathering up together, going to Berkeley because of free speech rallies to punch Nazis. And I'm just sitting there cringing the whole time. It's like, oh my God, with my anti-scene stickers and Pepe the Frog stickers in my workstation, which went over really well in the Bay Area. So
you were cringing. That was my side. And I had to sit here and deal with the fact that they were doing that shit. And I think it's stupid. Right.
Well, and that's what makes you, James, I'm not kissing ass here. We obviously disagree on certain things, but that's what makes you a genuinely good person is you are open enough to have a discussion, to get along. You're not going out to, if somebody's speaking that you disagree with a bullhorn and a boat whistle, trying to shut them down and shut them up. It got to the point where I was just feeling this hate, and it got to the point where I felt like I was looking over my shoulder because anybody they didn't like, somehow they found a way to go for character assassination and throw some kind of rape accusation, some kind of Nazi accusation, some kind of fascist accusation on them. And I found that to be very ugly. I don't like bullying. I don't like tribalism. And when I saw people on the left turn into what I associate with the extremist religious right doing, I was like, tribalism is a real problem. And it will twist people into being hateful under the guise of being loving. The Christians showed us how to do it, and the politically obsessed took it the whole extra mile. And then when I noticed the media was very slanted and they were telling half-truths, that really turned me. And then I started researching a little more. And when I noticed that, the economy was doing well, when I noticed things like that when people were calling him homophobic, yet he was trying to go after countries that homosexuality was illegal in. It's like they're putting a lot of things on him. And yes, the guy is obviously a douchebag. He's an entitled rich man, very narcissistic, But my take on him was he wasn't this seething ball of hate and destruction and Nazism. He was a narcissist that wanted to do well for the country and have people pat him on the back.
Mhm.
Well, okay, there are Nazis, but they're not like a current like major blight that's like taking over the country or anything. And importantly,
Even the Republicans hate the Nazis. So.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I don't think that all Trump supporters are Nazis or racists or homophobes or anything like that. I don't want to lump an entire group of people into a category that is that broad. Like I just don't like black and white thinking. Like the only thing I will lump is that people who are Trump voters voted for Trump. That's what I know about them.
Right.
I assume they're probably conservative.
They're probably trying to protect guns. They're probably looking for less government rather than more. And it's gotten to the point where they're probably sick of being shit on now because they've been turned into the monster under the bed and the creature in the closet, which is sad. I mean, you've learned this, James. You've actually interacted with people that supported Trump's. Yes, there's good and bad in everybody. Being a liberal or a conservative is not a good person make. People use that shit to manipulate. But there are good people on both sides, genuinely good people on both sides. And the fact that families break up, friendships end over this is just sad. And I blame the media because the media, the internet pretty much put them in a position where they weren't making money, and they learned that race baiting and the whole bad orange man, thing got views, got attention, and got people rallying around them. So if I were to, I think politicians are evil anyway. They're all
that's what I keep saying. All politicians are bad. I hate them all.
But I think the media's done more damage.
The media is even more insidious than you're giving them credit for. Like I've explained this to Mimzi in depth of my opinion of the media, especially the political media, and why they are like they are. And I will probably get into that more as I talk more about my point.
I think we're on the same page with that. I mean, you can just tell by your reaction and don't you hate being lied to and manipulated? I mean, that if anything's going to piss me off, that's going to do it.
Yeah. Out of those things that you've said, like I totally understand where you're coming from, and I get the frustration that people who voted for Trump probably were experiencing during like all of that, social justice war type stuff, which I don't agree with. You all know my opinions on that. My thing is, what?
I just feel like I've been holding on to this one thing I want to say.
Oh, go ahead.
That, in case anyone wasn't aware, that is one of the big reasons that we all voted for Trump, because we were against the political correctness and the wokesters and the social justice warriors, and nobody wants that authoritarian shit taking over our country. And Trump was the antithesis to that.
Well, and there is the fact that he was already a billionaire. He wasn't bought, sold, and paid for. He wasn't a politician. Right. I actually kind of like Bernie Sanders in some ways too, that he was shaking up the establishment. I just didn't quite agree with him as much as
Bernie is my man. I will vote for Bernie every time he runs for anything. So here's my thing. I was already deeply invested in politics long before Trump was ever even on the spectrum of like running for presidency. And I think
that's great. That's why I love your perspective.
Thank you. I think that if I had started getting into politics at the same time you did, it's more possible that I could have been swayed into a more conservative viewpoint because I was also so angry about the culture war. However, I knew from my experience already and my knowledge already that it really didn't have anything to do with the presidential race. So I never equated the culture war and the cancel culture and like the social justice warrior movement and all that stuff into who I should vote for as president, because neither one of them are going to do anything about it. I would rather vote completely on platform and that's it, because everything else to me is irrelevant. They're going to be lying about it anyway, so I can't trust their opinion on anything. All I care about is what they're actually going to do when they're in office. And that's why, to me, Trump is not a good president, because the thing is, I don't mind that he's brash. Like, I don't know, there's the whole like politeness of politics is a lie anyway. So I feel like it's more, genuine. So I get that. That's not really my issue. It's just his policies that I really don't like. I mean, I don't really like his personality, but that's like a personal taste thing. I don't think it's bad inherently. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah. And it's like, I hate that I always end up having to defend Biden just because I had to vote for him. But as boring as he is, the policies that he's going to implement and has been implementing are, in my opinion, more beneficial to the country and healthier in the long run, even though I wouldn't say they're great. They're probably still less than the bare minimum, but they're
Tell that to the Texan on the border there.
what?
Tell that to the
Yeah.
Texan on the border.
I'm not very thrilled with what's going on right now.
Well, what
I
is
think
it that's bothering you? Because I would like to talk about policy and not necessarily social justice wars, because that to me is irrelevant to the presidents. Like that neither one of them are going to do anything about it.
Okay, well, I don't like what's happening on the border. Like,
Well, what is happening on the border that's upsetting?
because of Biden and his like welcoming stance, tons more people are coming across the border right now. It's leading to terror. And for people who are very concerned about COVID, some people have said as high as 50% of these people have COVID or are obtaining COVID from each other while in these facilities. They're at like 700% capacity right now. The whole thing with all the drug cartels and the human trafficking, it's running rampant right now. People, something like 60% or more of the women and young people coming over the border are being raped on the way. I mean,
To me, these have been issues before Biden was in office.
Dealers and the human traffickers are making a killing right now. The borders are open and they're pouring right into my state, like they're coming right on in. It's a violation of human rights on so many levels.
Okay, so those are, I don't know the statistics on all of those issues offhand, but to the extent that they exist now, they've already existed before. And my thing on immigration is this. You and I had a conversation about it on your channel the one time, and you and I both kind of agree that more immigration that's legal is probably good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. The Trump administration has been extremely dead set on making it almost impossible to immigrate to America. They've undermined asylum as a concept in a lot of ways. They have been denying applications more than any other administration ever has, which has also caused more illegal immigration, because if it's harder to do it legally, then that's what people are going to go to next. He can also he had the ability to denaturalize people who were already full permanent US residents, which means that they can be deported if they do something wrong or something, which if you've become a full citizen of a different country, then if you break the law and need to be punished, then the correct course of action is to go through that country's punishment system, essentially.
Yeah, I'd never heard this.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a lot of information that I think a lot of people never really look at, and I'll explain why that is, because it's about the media and how shitty they are. So during his administration, denials of legal immigrant applications rose from 6% to 32% by the end of it was basically from 2015 to 2019. And basically he's just been adding tons and tons of red tape and bureaucracy, and it's made the process not only a lot more difficult, but a lot slower. He also closed down 20 of the offices that are supposed to process these things. So that is the reason why there's a gigantic backlog now. And Biden basically inherited that. And my opinion of why it's not going great right now is because I feel like a big issue I have with Democrats is that I feel like they kind of half-ass it. And so they're not necessarily solving the problems in the correct order, where you kind of build a pyramid foundation, of first we solve this issue, which will make it easier to solve these other issues without it all collapsing. So that to me is the problem. It's the intent is there, but they're not really, the intent is more for show than anything else, but it's not necessarily getting worse than it was. It's just probably more of a different issue than it was before.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, there's also the issue that during the Obama administration and the Trump administration, journalists were allowed into the detainment centers. During the Biden administration, they are not.
No media is allowed in.
Well, okay. I mean, Cruz got in, and they took covert, camera phone pictures, but we wouldn't be seeing those pictures had Cruz not gone in there.
Well, I'll tell you why they're not letting the media in. It's because people are very angry about the containment facilities. that they're being kept in and the conditions of them.
Not a petri dish. They're being kept in like a plastic cube together.
Right. So here's what I'm saying. Let me finish. People have been very concerned about this for a long time. During the entire Trump administration, people have been very worried about kids in cages and all of that stuff going on. The reason why they're not letting the media in is because that's still the case. They're just trying to pretend like it's not. That's
kind of like they ignored that the kids in cages were going on during the Obama
administration. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's AOC at the fence?
AOC does not have the authority to do anything about that.
The other thing that I really disliked that he did was during the riots, or should I say peaceful protests, because you're not allowed to say riots, when the St. John's was burning, and he goes out there with the Bible and starts pandering to the religious
okay,
right.
Let me actually correct you on the fact that was not a riot. It was definitely a peaceful protest. Like, it's everywhere. There's no violence happening until he decides that he wants to go out and take that photo, and then they start shooting at the protesters. Like, before that, there's literally no violence happening at that particular protest.
Well, will you acknowledge that there are
of course
protests, there are actually riots that the media won't acknowledge are riots, that they're still
let me give you my position on this. Black Lives Matter and the insurrectionists both had peaceful versions and riots. And neither one is justified. I don't like riots ever. But to be fair, in both situations, the vast majority of the people there were peacefully protesting and a small minority were rioting. So I do agree that the riots were bad and they caused damage and you shouldn't just ignore it. But when people act like that's all it was with Black Lives Matter, but then when it comes to the insurrection, they're like, oh, but it was peaceful. It's like, that's still a double standard.
That's a great point. Thank you for making that point.
I mean, and that's a double-edged sword point too. I mean, as a business owner, I'm sorry, watching people's businesses being destroyed over a tantrum and from opportunists, I find extremely distasteful.
I agree with you.
And watching the media coddle that. I mean, standing in front of a blazing fire saying, we're here at the most peaceful protest. I mean, you've seen that footage, I'm sure.
Yeah, but the media that you see that shows all the damage and whatnot is also biased. So the actual amount of, that happening is a pretty small percentage, but you just see it when it does happen because that's interesting.
Well, I watch things like Unicorn Riot where they're actually filming at the protests or the riots. Yeah, I don't trust the media. I mean, I know Fox is going to throw spin on it.
All of the footage I've seen of protests, a lot of it has been peaceful, and a lot of it has been the police actively starting violence.
See, I think the police are so afraid right now that I don't really see that as being the case. They've got to be angry, but okay. I mean, there's an awful lot of cops.
I can show you some videos if you'd like to see the police literally just act like assholes for 2 hours.
And I can show you videos of rioters being assholes.
I know. I already know that. I already know they did that. But are you going to be able to admit that the police were also actively inciting violence?
I've seen some shit. Yeah, I've seen some shit. I was just like, what? It was heartbreaking. Yeah. Very heartbreaking.
I watched a police officer trample a girl with a horse, and she wasn't doing anything. She was just standing there holding a sign.
Yeah, I could hardly
exercising her right to free speech.
Because always on my side, I'm always kind of on the side that defends the police, and to see them acting like that, it was very heartbreaking to me. And I haven't wanted to see it. Actually.
I appreciate that you can acknowledge that, Mimzi. And I'm not saying I think police are evil or anything.
Some of them are, though. I see.
That's the thing. They're all people, and some people are bad.
Right. Well, when they get into tribe and they get the thin blue line is very gang-like. When they start to get together and they call themselves the victim, it becomes very dangerous too.
Okay, so can you understand that there was a huge amount of police instigated violence against the protesters during the summer?
I will admit that I don't know about it all, and that I have been led to believe that there was more than I thought there was, and I would be willing to open my mind to learning more about how that might have been the case.
There's also a factor in this. The police are going into the worst neighborhoods, dealing with the worst people on a constant basis.
They get jaded.
They want to come home.
So here's the solution.
They get to the point where a fast movement, while somebody's not complying to being arrested, equates to the training kicks in and people get shot. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I understand how it happens.
Per year.
How many?
I don't know the stats on how many police
are shot basically by violent people that they're dealing with. I'm going to tell you the answer is not a lot, maybe a couple hundred per year, all
Well,
across the
at
country.
least, but
And,
it's
the number
more,
of unarmed black
it's
men being
more
killed
than,
is very
yes,
low
exactly.
too.
That's what I was about to say, that it's more than
Agreed.
black people.
However, it's still not as dangerous a job as they act like it is. So
I don't know about that.
no, it really isn't. Like statistically speaking, it's actually one of the safer jobs. Like the top dangerous jobs are like construction jobs. The solution to your shitty neighborhood problem is to try to fix systemic poverty, not to just like shoot them.
Wasn't that what welfare's done, is try to fight systemic?
Well, yeah, but
poverty?
you guys always want to scale it back, so then it's not very effective.
Well, there was less welfare under Trump, and I guess that on our side would see that as a good thing, and maybe your side would see that as a not so.
Well, I
good
told you why that affected me negatively. So what they were lowering was food stamps. And the reason is because of allocation of funds to agriculture in different states, basically. And that's like a much more hidden part of presidential administrations that people don't really like talk about on the news ever. So anyway, that's an aside. I want to try to stay on topic this time, but probably won't be able to. But
I don't begrudge you for your views. I mean, I got to be honest. I do feel it takes both wings to make the eagle fly.
yeah.
And
no, I'm not
both
sitting here
sides
going
have
like,
their
wow,
points.
what an asshole. I can't believe.
right, right. I mean, let's face it, if one side completely became king of the United States and it completely got their way, it would be very bad. And I'm talking either side.
Yeah, I agree. Let's pick another topic that's related to Trump and not the police. What are issues that you guys have? You brought up the immigration thing, which my position on that is like mixed. Like I'm not saying Biden's handling it well, but Trump definitely didn't handle it any better in my view, because he basically made it so difficult that it caused a huge backlog, which is the reason why now we're in the situation that you're complaining about, essentially.
Well, I like the fact that Trump lowered taxes and was putting more money in the American people's pockets.
Yeah,
Like, I've had
so-
people argue that with me.
regulations.
I would
as
love
well.
to
I
argue that.
actually had somebody argue with me. I only got $59 more in my paycheck a year. How much did that, or a month? How much did that? No, he got $59 more weekly, and I said, "Well, do the math on what that meant for a year."
I wish
That's
I
only
got $59
$2,000,
weekly.
and that's not where. Well, I mean, it was for lowering taxes for.
Okay, so here's the thing. Lowering taxes on the middle class is excellent, and I fully support that. But lowering taxes on corporations is the thing I have a problem with, because when you cut the income that the government is taking in by that amount, and then you continue to spend money, like the same amount of money on like the gigantic defense budget and all the other stuff that Trump wanted to pay for, then you end up with a much worse deficit than before. And then for some reason, Democrats get blamed for the deficit, even though they've been increasing the amount of income that the government takes in, which offsets it.
Well,
Right? It's pretty hard to cut the defense budget though with what's going on with China at the moment, because
Oh,
things could
we
get
can
really
cut the
ugly really
defense
quick.
budget by a lot and still have a way bigger army than China will ever.
Well, I mean, I've talked to people, I know career military people, and definitely things were better for them under Trump than it was for under Barack Obama.
All the military people I know personally have the exact opposite opinion, and also
Really?
every military person I know, and I know like at least a good handful, voted for Biden and like really didn't want to vote for Trump again.
That's funny. I don't know any myself, but I definitely believe you.
Yeah. I'm not saying that all military people hated Trump, but I think it's a much bigger divide than it seems like to people.
why don't we move on to how he lowered unemployment? You know?
Okay, so people were more.
And I think that's because of the tax cuts and the deregulation.
Well, here's the thing, though. First,
And
I gotta
going out and telling people that they didn't have to rely on handouts, that they could be something, they could go out and do for themselves. And a lot of people took that message to heart. They went out there and they pulled up their bootstraps and they went out and got a job and, lowered unemployment, and they had faith in the future again. And I think that was a really good thing. And, it showed in the statistics.
Well, the thing is, while unemployment itself was lower, people were what we call underemployed, which doesn't really get charted on that same statistic. So it's like under acknowledged, basically. So what?
Didn't the middle class have bigger paychecks,
No, well, maybe, but the middle class is still kind of an upper class. Like people who are in the lower middle class or just in poverty in general were much more so under Trump, mostly because of like the thing with corporate tax cuts is it doesn't really determine whether or not they're going to hire more people. Corporations hire people when they need employees. That's when they hire people. It doesn't matter if they have tax cuts or not, because they're a corporation. They have like millions of dollars. They can afford it. Like it's the issue isn't that they can't afford it. So it's really just about demand. And the thing is that whenever you have corporations incentivized to hire more people, but not in the right ways, then they hire more people and then they cut their hours. So they still aren't making enough money to pay their bills. And it's also, they're still making minimum wage probably. So, and they're not getting any benefits, and they're not like, they're underemployed. So they still can't necessarily pay their bills with that alone, without any kind of welfare program to assist them.
Yeah,
That's the experience I've seen.
well, I see your point, and I know that that you have a more socialistic.
Yeah. You and I have had our whole socialist conversation. So
yeah, we have. We've done a whole show on it.
Yeah.
So, and I have come to see things more from your point of view as far as that goes. I think that we might have like a little bit of a different, going off on a different topic though here, because I'm just talking about the fact that there's less unemployment, not really necessarily, if it was underemployment or not.
But I feel like that's the same issue though, because it's like Trump contributed to underemployment, which is still as bad.
Contributed to it, or is it that? Yeah, I guess that's what I'm not understanding.
He contributed to it because he allowed, he removed a lot of regulations on corporations that some of them dictate how they treat and pay their employees and things like that. And that's why corporations were really on board with Trump, because he's very pro, the free market thing, I guess, but very pro corporation, which I'm not pro corporation. I hate corporations. So because of that, the less regulations on them for like how they treat their employees and how they employ them and whatnot, like that is something that has contributed to.
Okay, I see what your point is.
Well, the problem with overregulation is now on the federal level, it's one thing, but also on the county and state levels, it's another thing. It gets abused.
Sure, and I'm not saying that it should be overregulated. I think there's a middle ground,
Right, well, because I've seen that personally. Like in a small town like that, I run a business and I've owned my own business for years. There's restaurants that if they're from the right family, the health department inspects them completely differently than if they're a new establishment. They're in competition with old money who are ingrained with their little social clubs. So the problem is when you give power to local governments and authorities like that, and I'm sure you feel this way about the police as well. I always thought of them as kind of the henchmen of these individuals that were regulating in this way, is that they don't stick to the book. They use those powers in nefarious ways to stack the deck.
Right. However, if you get
authoritarianism is authoritarianism,
powers, then they don't like. It's not like they're just like, well, now we're going to be really nice citizens and treat all of our employees well. So like, too much power in the hands of corporations to me is just as bad as too much power in the hands of.
Right. Like I'm sure you have no love for Bezos or
obviously,
or Sam Walton or the family anyway. But
yeah.
And I get what you're saying. And again, I have more opinions than I do solutions for stuff like that.
Yeah,
I definitely believe in free market. Is there a cap that should be on that? There's a minimum wage. Should there be a maximum wage? But then again, is that going to push industry into other countries where those regulations don't exist? And it was Trump that wanted to put a halt to things like China and
I didn't mind his China tariffs, to be honest with you. That's one thing that I thought he did that was right. So I'm not going to attack that. But
what were your feelings on the lack of conflict in 4 years and the fact that he was actually trying to pull people out of the Middle East?
I felt like there was still tons of conflict. And also he got us out of the Iran. He not got us out of, he violated the Iran deal, which caused more conflict.
Are you talking about by killing, what's his name?
Yeah.
I'm going to butcher the name.
There was that, but I think there were other things too.
Soleimani.
Yeah, there was that. That was a big conflict thing, but there were also other things that he did that basically violated the Iran deal. However, they have said that they would be willing to get back into it with us now that Biden is in office. So Which I like I said, don't make me defend Biden. I'm just saying.
Right? No. I think the only problem with Biden is I truly believe he's been bought, sold, and paid for.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And that's pretty scary.
I agree with you on that. But the thing is, I also think Trump has been too, which is something that I feel like the right has a lot of trouble acknowledging.
He got a lot more.
We don't hold that view. We think that he's been independent, that he's paid for most of his own shit himself.
Right. I wish that was true.
That he actually lost income during the time that he was president.
Well, actually, okay, so here's the thing with Trump. I see him as a con man when it comes to finances.
Well, when in politics, he's obviously a con man.
Yeah. So his background though with businesses is not good, honestly, in my view. I don't exactly know what his finances are because he's so good at obscuring them. So I have no idea. And I don't necessarily believe that he has billions, but maybe he does. I don't know. However, I do know one thing that he did that really, really upset me when it came to how he handles his money, or the country's money more specifically, which is he took like 200 or something vacations to his own resort, which is already not something you're allowed to do, with the entire Secret Service, which taxpayers pay for, and all of that money goes into the resort's funds, which is his. So basically, it's kind of like embezzling money.
Really? Because like he seemed like a pretty active president, more so than
not
other ones
active
in my
on Twitter,
lifetime.
not necessarily like.
I don't mean just on Twitter. I mean addressing the country, doing actual speeches, and he.
That's not my point. My point is that he embezzled taxpayer money into his own business.
Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, that one is a thing. So you can look it up. The Mar-a-Lago, he went to that a lot, which here's the thing. It would be one thing if he went to a different establishment, or maybe like a different one every time so he could patron different American businesses, right, with that money. But it was his own, and that is all funded by taxpayers. It was something like, I might have the number on here somewhere on my notes. I'll look for it. But it was like millions of dollars, basically. And because it's being paid to his own business, it goes into his personal business accounts.
I mean, do you think that was some kind of scheme, or he just felt more comfortable going on his own business?
I don't think it matters, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, do you think that?
I think he knew what he was doing.
When Barack Obama and Michelle go on vacation, they still have Secret Servicemen that are.
Yeah, but they're not. They don't own a business.
A lot of controversy around them and their vacations and the billions.
Sure. But here's the difference, though. You're not getting what I'm saying. They don't have their own business that they're patroning with taxpayer money.
Yeah, see, I just personally can't. That just doesn't bother me. I'm more interested.
That's literally embezzlement.
Well, and so is, and I know you don't defend Biden, but him flying his son on Air Force Two.
Yeah, sure, I guess. But I mean, he doesn't own that, so he doesn't make money from it. The thing is, when people
make money from it.
Hang on, let me try to break it down this way.
No, I'm getting it.
Okay, yeah, Mimzi's getting it. I appreciate that. So when people go to Mar-a-Lago and they pay to stay at that resort, when people do, just regular citizens, that money goes to Trump because he owns it, right?
I mean, I get what you're saying. It's just hard for me to get up in arms with all the issues of the world. I really don't care if
here's my point.
Club is
because we're talking about finances right now. We can get into the other issues later.
Right.
But, so that money goes to him. So what he's doing is he's taking taxpayer dollars, because taxpayers pay for the Secret Service and his like trips and all that stuff, and going to his resort with it. And then all of that taxpayer money goes into his business, his personal private business.
Right. So he's not a buffoon. He's a good businessman, and that's
not
why I like him as
That's
president.
embezzlement. That's what embezzlement is.
I don't know if I agree.
No, it is. That's the definition of embezzlement. I can like Google it for you if you want to.
Embezzlement means stealing money from where you're working. Yes, and I just don't see.
Do you think taxpayer money should be going to his private business?
I think there's a lot of things taxpayer money shouldn't be going to.
Agreed, but that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, but that's a grain of sand in a beach. I mean,
is it though?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's
the evils of one country club. How much money they're taking out of the economy?
Millions of dollars, and it's to the president of the United States.
Or the people that work there.
The president of the United States. I don't know how much he pays.
Or the employees that are having to
he would have to pay them either way. He has to pay his employees regardless. Well, to be fair, he has actually not paid employees frequently, so maybe he didn't. But point being, yeah, I do take issue with that because, like I said, that's the actual definition of embezzlement. It's a conflict of interest. What he should have done, again, is go to other resorts maybe, or use his own money, or just don't charge for it or something, but that you don't need to take the money out of the taxpayer, like the IRS income, and put it into your own business when you're president. There's no good reason to do that.
Now, another thing that I liked that Trump did was I really did not like Barack Obama's healthcare where you were forced to buy it. If not, you were penalized in your taxes.
That affected me personally.
Yeah, I understand the
It affected
mandate.
a lot of people. But I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I did like, as a diabetic, when Trump started putting caps on pharma with the cost of insulin and the cost of diabetic medication, and then that just got turned back over again. But so
I'll have to look into that because I have not heard that.
Transparency and medical transparency, billing transparency.
There have been benefits and drawbacks to changes that have been made within the medical system throughout both Obama's and Trump's presidency. I'm pro Medicare for all. So both of them suck, in my opinion.
Right. The problem is when it becomes state regulated, everything becomes these incredibly strangely inflated costs where there's a lot of embezzlement. Talking about corruption and money being filtered into the wrong pockets. That's what happens.
Oh, it bothers you when it's that?
Well, no. Well, on when it's state level, yeah, I like free enterprises. I don't like authoritarianism and government control.
Well, I don't either, but that's not what I'm saying we should do. I think we should have models that work in other countries that allow for everyone to have health insurance.
Right. And I'm on the fence with this because I sort of agree with you. Believe me, it would be beneficial to me if there was socialized healthcare.
I would be dead if it weren't for Medicare.
Right. But the problem with me is I'm in the middle of being a business owner. I'm not poor enough to get, state-funded insurance. I'm not rich enough to pay these giant premiums and with shitty deductibles.
And that's why we need Medicare for all.
What kind of like England or Canada or?
I guess
I don't necessarily
not Canada,
but
I mean, there's plenty of good examples. People always say Canada because they're the slow country.
Or Cuba. Is Cuba a better example?
Cuba's not the example I would have gone to either. I would have gone.
They actually have fairly good medical care, though.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, okay, so there's also I
was actually more agreeing with you than being a snarky asshole on that. I know that came off like I was like, how about Cuba, the commie bastards? But no.
Yeah, I know people always come after Cuba. But as like me and Mimzi talked about, there's even the Switzerland model, which is still a capitalist model. It's just that it limits the fact that like insurance companies can't make gross profits in that system. So therefore their costs still remain at the same that they would be if they had a Medicare for all, like that was completely state owned, but it's actually not state owned. So that might be a good middle ground for that issue.
As a libertarian, there is the theory that if like basically all welfare was cut off, we could open the borders because people wouldn't be storming the borders trying to get
that immigrants, like especially illegal immigrants, don't get welfare, right?
Aren't they getting like $1,400 COVID payments? And
I mean, maybe legal immigrants, or like people on visas, maybe, I don't know, but they're not in welfare programs. Like they're not in SNAP, they're not in Medicare, they're not in like any of those. And they do pay into them sometimes. So they actually technically, like they ran the numbers, and illegal immigrants pay more into things like Social Security than they would take out, like in the very rare instances where they manage to somehow get it.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That's an angle that I haven't explored.
Now, here's something, and I always like to say this when I'm debating or having these conversations. Is there anything about Trump that he did that you do think is appropriate, or you do think is a good thing, or do you think he is 100% bad, did nothing good for no?
I've already mentioned a couple of them, so yes. One being I liked the China tariffs.
Right. That's right.
Go into that more. Tell us what you mean, what you liked about it. I mean,
Well, here I can just very simply explain it. I don't like outsourcing. I think outsourcing is bad. It's anti-American, and we should keep that money in our country. So that means we should make it
Yay!
harder to outsource, which includes putting tariffs on other countries and things like that. Disincentive.
Oh, okay, I can definitely get behind a liberal nationalist. There's
So-
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with looking out.
Also, I
our-
fucking
our
hate
interests
China.
first.
Fuck China.
Oh my God, I love you. I love you even more and more. James.
Fuck China. Honestly, no, I hate them.
Well, they're very dangerous, and they do some
They're
very,
very
like,
dangerous.
horrendous human
Mhm.
human right violations with the Uyghurs, and I mean, and as far as everybody being fixated on racism, take a look at China.
No, I
Holy
know.
shit.
Trust me, I'm not a fan of China at all. So,
I find it very actually
specifically,
it's kinda
Chinese
scary.
people are fine, but the
No, I agree. I'm not saying Chinese people
Right.
by
No.
any means
We don't want to
are.
perpetuate hate.
they're just
here.
the victims of the system.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, there is some serious shit with China, and they're becoming extremely powerful.
Yeah, agreed. I definitely think we need to pay more attention to them. I don't exactly know what the
I think
solution
that
is, but
Biden is the wrong guy for the job when it comes to
I don't
that.
think Trump is a better guy for the job.
See, I think he was a little bit tougher on him, and
I mean,
think
maybe like openly, and like I said, the tariffs, but he did have a lot of friendly conversations with their whatever that dude, Winnie the Pooh, that guy.
oh, how dare you?
I'm probably gonna, get my
Xi Jinping, I
kidneys
think his name
harvested
is.
for saying
Xi
that.
Xi Jinping?
Yeah, Xi Jinping.
Xi Jinping, yeah.
Anyway, I don't think that, I'm not saying that Biden is like the perfect man for the job, but I'm not saying that like, I don't think Trump is either. It's an issue and we do need to address it. And I don't really know what the solution is. So,
Make
yeah.
a note. I want to do an episode on this.
All right. It's a very much a lesser of two evils thing, which is like what I said at the beginning. Like, it's not pro Trump. It's just, I really don't think he was handling the country well. And I think Biden will at least do less damage, which is where we're at, unfortunately. It's the best I can get.
I'm on the fence about that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm on the first this first few months is
What are
indicating.
you guys what are you afraid of with the first few months?
Well, I think that he's trying to know this gun regulation.
Okay, so here's the thing. I found the gun list of things that he was going to do with gun regulation. Let me find that real quick on my notes.
He's going after ghost guns.
Yeah, ghost guns, exactly.
Any gun regulation is a big red flag for
But
me.
okay, do you agree you think there should be no gun regulation whatsoever?
No, I guess not.
Okay, I'm just curious what your position is.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say no gun regulation, of course.
Okay.
No, I mean, background checks, obviously.
Okay,
should
so if you're
give guns to, people who have mental disorders and are criminals.
That's literally all Biden is doing. I can read you. Here's the 6 actions that he took. There's literally 6 specific ones. No more unregistered guns made from kits on the internet, which are ghost guns, essentially. Basically, just people ordering parts of guns and then building it at home and then not registering it or doing a background check or going through those channels.
Uh-huh.
And also probably like the
It's gonna
fleet.
be very hard to implement, though, because
Yeah, but he's trying to
rent a gun.
go
Yeah.
after those. Basically, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how successful he is at it, but anyway, that's what he's.
There
trying
is the irony that the places that are with less gun regulations have less gun violence, and that's
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm not anti-gun in I just think that there should be some moderately.
Yeah, that is worth addressing, though, that the areas where there's the most gun regulation have the most gun violence.
Yeah, but there's also other statistics that have other safety concerns, such as homes with guns in them are much more likely to have a domestic violence dispute that ends in homicide. And also, suicide by gun. But anyway, let me go down this list. So the ghost guns. The second thing is stricter rules on a particular kind of modification on pistols that like basically makes them operate like a shotgun, from my understanding. Like it does like more short range spray damage or something like that, which I think is like such a specific thing. I can't imagine why people would be offended by it. He wants to do a bunch of stuff with trying to prevent firearms trafficking, which I think is probably good. And then there's this model red flag bill, which I like. I mean, I want it to work in the way that it's intended, but I'm not positive it will, but it's also not being imposed on anyone at all.
That's when you're talking about just an accusation can get your guns
Yeah,
taken
so
away.
But here's the thing. Let me explain to you how it works. First of all, it's not just an accusation. You have to have evidence. But second of all, literally no one is being compelled to have this policy. What it is he made a model bill that states could maybe decide to have if they wanted to have it. And it means that if you can prove someone is too dangerous to own a gun, they can't get one. Basically, there's a red flag on their like check if they tried to.
What's that? How do you prove that?
You would have to provide things like medical records, essentially. Like, for example, I would probably be subjected to this, which I'm fine with, honestly. Like, it's probably good for me. Where if someone wanted to, they could show some certain medical records that I have and things that I've said specifically in those records, and I would have a red flag that I wouldn't be able to buy a gun, which, like I said, I actually think is probably good. I should not.
You ever feel like you might need a gun to defend yourself?
Nope.
That red flag law just seems like it's so open to abuse.
Yeah.
It's not a law, though. That's the thing.
If they were to implement it into a law.
So that's the thing. Like, it's not being implemented. So it's just a model, and people can either take it and modify it or not take it at all, or whatever they want. So nobody's being imposed. It's just a suggested solution that states can make up their own minds about.
Okay, I love states' rights.
Right, me too. And then the next thing is violence intervention programs, which is basically like social workers and like police officers that go talk to people who seem like they're at risk for committing either acts of violence or maybe suicide or something like that, to discourage them from doing so. Like, for example, going to like known gang members or people who were attacked and they think they might retaliate. Like, people are in the hospital and might like, when I get out of here, I'm going to go fucking kill that bitch or whatever, just try to talk them down, essentially. So I think that's pretty harmless. Like, there's no legal actions being taken. It's really just people there to be like, hey, are you thinking about killing someone? And if so, could you maybe not? Basically, that's it. I'd
like to be that social worker that gets to infiltrate the Crips and the Vice Lords.
Yeah, the Crips. That'd be interesting. And then I guess people have a problem with David Chipman. I don't really have an opinion about him. I don't really care. To me, like, both sides pick people that I'm sure the other side doesn't like. I don't like that y'all put Amy Coney Barrett in, the Supreme Court. So anyway, is there anything on that list that you really take umbrage with?
Well, the red flag thing I really dislike, but I don't want any,
It's not being imposed on anyone.
I'm super libertarian with that. Again, abortions and guns for all.
Right. No, and I get you. Here's the thing. Like, I understand. I would understand if the red flag law was actually being rolled out like on a federal level, why you would have an issue with it. But because it isn't, and it's just like, you can do this if you want to. It's just a suggestion. And states can do whatever they want.
Now it's a suggestion, but there's that whole boiling frog thing where you just introduce things a little bit at a time, and until.
So, do you think that we shouldn't make suggestions for problems? If
I know, like, what am I saying then?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm just talking about.
I don't feel like this is a boiling water situation. Maybe if it was like, I don't know, like I can't really picture how this could escalate, to be honest with you. So if you have a thought
that is our fear, though. It's
I get that. I understand.
I'm just bits of legislation at a time until before you know it, we didn't even realize that all of our rights.
I mean, that happens again on both sides, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if there's a way you think it would escalate, I'm open to hearing it, but I don't really see it as a problem.
Just that people just jump on like a witch hunt when it comes to stuff like that.
Again, it's not actually implemented.
If they were to implement it, then it could turn into a witch hunt.
Okay, maybe, but that's a state by state basis. It's not like a violation of the Constitution.
Yeah, well, I guess living in Texas, I don't have as much to worry about.
No, you probably don't.
Yeah.
But also, like, again, you still have to prove it. Like, I don't know. I mean, if it ended up like a state that got out of hand with it, then maybe we could have a conversation about that. But I just, like, we can't just account for every possible escalation of everything, because literally anything that's a policy could escalate.
Yeah. I'm trying to open myself up to being more progressive.
I know, and I'm glad. And the only reason I'm like going on about this particular thing is because I know that it worries you when it comes to the, like, gun rights and everything like that. And I don't want you to be as worried if I don't really see a major threat personally, then that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So.
All right. Let's see. Well, hey, do you want to talk about his friendship with Kim Jong-un and North Korea, and how he would help to facilitate peace, supposedly, as far as that goes, and got them to de-escalate nuclear wise?
To be honest, I don't have research on that on me, so there's really not much I can say to contest it. I don't really.
Think it kind of backfired now at this point.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what the situation with Kim Jong-un is or how it went. So if you have details on that, I'm open to hearing.
I don't have a lot of details on it, but I just, I remember at the time when he was actually going to North Korea and having talks, like peace talks with them, and actually making ends in that way. I was just very proud of it.
Sure.
I thought it was really cool.
I guess I don't have any particular issue against
that. Hadn't been bold enough to go ahead and initiate a conversation with him.
Yeah, I don't have any particular issues against trying to facilitate relationships between countries, especially ones that are tense. I don't know how effective it was. I don't know what all examples there are to go to, or any other details like that. So
okay, well, let's talk about the stock market, how well it did under Trump.
The stock market is not an accurate representation of how the economy is doing.
But it did close at record highs, so that can't be a bad thing. I mean,
how many stocks do you own, Mimzi?
I don't own any stocks.
So it doesn't really affect you.
I just have a 401k. No.
Yeah, it can maybe.
I was encouraged by it.
The stock market does well. Corporations do well, but that doesn't necessarily translate to regular citizens doing well.
So you don't believe in trickle-down economics?
Oh, absolutely not.
I knew that.
Yeah. I've got something that can trickle down on Reagan.
Oh, you weren't a fan of Reagan either.
No. Well, he's the one who did that, so.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Talk about some stuff.
Okay. How about we talk about the gay rights thing, or the LGBT rights more specifically?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're not talking about where he went after the countries where homosexuality was illegal.
No, I mean, yeah, that's great and all, I guess, because those countries that we're at war at happen to be homophobic. However, what is your defense for his treatment of trans rights? And I'm not talking about.
Be specific.
I'm talking about the trans military ban. I'm talking about rolling back tons and tons of regulations on discriminating against trans people specifically. I'm talking about Trump. First of all, do you have a reason that would justify the trans military ban? There were already trans.
Yeah, I do. What I had been told about it is the justification for it is that people are basically joining the military in order to have their sex change operations paid for, and also that they weren't combat ready or military ready or whatever because of their medical.
Okay, so the military itself said that there was literally no impact on readiness from allowing trans people in. And as for paying for surgeries, I don't believe that the health insurance that is given by the military pays for the surgery. It might pay for the hormones, but they're not expensive anyway. And the amount that it pays for that, they spent the total added cost of allowing trans people to service and access healthcare amounted to $2.4 million, or maybe up to $8.4 million annually. However, to put that into perspective, the military spends around $84 million a year on Viagra. So to me, the hormones thing is really not, it's like like you were saying earlier, it's like a grain of sand. It's a drop in the bucket.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the issue with the military is it's all based on conformity and order. And a lot of people look at it, they're in the military, which Trump listened to, look at the whole thing as a distraction. I don't necessarily agree or disagree. I think it should be taken case by case basis, but I think it's a can of worms that there's a lot more bullshit that would come of it than productivity that would come of it. So, I mean,
I feel like there's examples of that being a problem, though. Like, okay, like that goes back to like don't ask, don't tell, which I don't think was good. Hopefully, I don't know if you're pro don't ask, don't tell, but I'm not.
I don't think it should have an impact what somebody's sexual preference is. But when they're wanting to wear the opposite genders,
Do you know what trans people usually look like?
yeah, I mean, by all criteria, being that I've physically changed myself, I completely understand what trans.
Yeah,
is.
they're not
I've known a lot
like
of people.
really blatantly attention grabbing. You know, you've probably seen like 50
They
trans
can be.
around that you had no idea. Yeah, they can be, but I mean, those people aren't going to be allowed to, or go into the military for other reasons. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're trans. It's like if I went into the military, I wouldn't fit in either. You know, doesn't
Right.
matter.
And when I've argued that with the whole trans in the military thing, is like I don't think I would pass the
But
psychological
the thing is,
evaluation
it's
either.
not
So
banning like everyone in a specific group when it's you. It's banning every trans person from the military. It doesn't matter if they fit in or not.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying by like on a case by case basis, but then that would be difficult to do a case by case.
It's also still
basis.
othering trans people. So to me, it's not pro LGBT.
Yeah. When I heard about that, I was definitely like kind of iffy on this. You know, I did, of course, I wanted to see it as a good thing because
Sure.
of the side I was on. I was like, well, that's understandable because they did mention that, you know, well, think about it. You can't get in if you have flat feet. You can't get in if you have certain mental conditions. This is kind of like a mental condition.
Yeah,
And
that's the thing though, is like,
it's the military. It's not meant to be like, oh, come on in, welcome, everyone's equal.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
It's
totally.
it's the military. Like, it's
However, there's really, I get that that's like the impression everyone had, because I know that's what most people said when I brought this up originally. But first of all, we already had trans people serving and there wasn't any negative consequence to it. So those people got discharged when this happened. And furthermore, when you actually look at the recruitment requirements and whatnot, like they're not that strict. Like they're not like if you literally have any kind of mental disorder, like anxiety, depression would count, then you can't join. It's if you have like intense, psychiatric problems, then yeah, that could disqualify you. But being trans isn't necessarily like that. It was based on a misunderstanding from old, outdated medical information that basically assumed that like gender dysphoria was like completely like debilitating and they would not be able to function at all if they well,
I mean, the suicide rates and stuff kind of indicate to that.
Sure, but do you think the suicide rates for trans people is going to improve by them not being allowed to serve in the military?
I don't think it's going to improve or get any better. I think it is what it is.
Sure. My point is that othering trans people doesn't help their suicide rate. Their suicide rate isn't because they're trans. It's because of the way society treats trans people.
Right. And then, like I said, I get the argument, and I am definitely for the case by case basis, but it's not one of those things that's a deal breaker. It does not a transphobe, in my opinion, make. It doesn't mean
I'm not saying he's a transphobe, but I'm saying that's not pro LGBT.
okay. I agree with you, James.
Thank you.
Right. I mean, and it'd be one of those things I'd be interested in hearing what people that are high ranking in the military and people that have seen
They had
combat.
no problem with it, but you can go look that up for yourself if you don't believe me.
Well, I mean, I think that depends. That's a case by case basis.
Well, sure. I'm sure maybe some people.
No problem. Then why would he even make a rule like that? Was it?
I don't know. That's a good question because they specifically like
talked to him over it.
A lot of
you needed to make a rule over it. There had to be some reason for that.
I don't know what the thing that initiated it is. I haven't seen any.
I mean, I have a hard time believing it's just pure hatred towards.
I don't think
it goes around, harboring that.
I feel like it's a misunderstanding that was caused by maybe the culture war in some way, but yeah. I don't know.
It seems like a hot topic that'd be easy to take and run with it too.
I don't know of any specific event that led to this happening. I mean, maybe that's something else I should look into more to see.
Maybe just pandering towards the evangelical right, or
maybe, yeah. That's one thing that I've thought of as a possibility. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting topic.
And already,
it's definitely worth researching on all of our ends for the sake that we've all heard this accusation. We all know that this is a situation that people use as Trump is anti-gay. I just never got that impression from him. I mean, he's anti anybody that crosses him, but I've never got the feeling that he picks out any certain groups of people to hate. But that's just my impression.
I get you, and I'm not necessarily saying he's anti-gay. Like, I don't feel like, I don't know. Even if he was, it doesn't really matter. But I don't really get that impression from him either necessarily. Like, to me though, I think he doesn't understand trans issues and hasn't really made the effort to do so, and has gotten all of his information from a side that doesn't want to understand them. And that has resulted in a lot of this sort of misinformed action being taken specifically against trans people. And all it does is other them. Like, it doesn't have any other benefit to it. So all protections from discrimination against LGBT people in workplaces, and well, specifically trans people in workplaces, bathrooms, and EMT visits were randomly removed for no particular reason, in my view.
But they've been removed for religious liberty reasons.
Okay, well, here's the thing though. If you feel like your religious liberty outweighs people's human rights, then you should maybe not own a business. But I don't know. So in terms of workplace discrimination, you could make that argument, and that could be a whole other discussion. But when it comes to EMT discrimination, there's no reason to do that, because EMTs have to treat people regardless of whether or not their religious freedom allows it, because they're EMTs and that's their job. And if you don't want to treat certain kinds of people, you shouldn't be an EMT.
So he removed protections again.
Yeah.
So it became now acceptable and legal, or
Well,
whatever.
there's
for
a
an
loophole
EMT
now.
to say, "Oh, you're trans."
Yeah. So here's the thing.
On the side of the road.
Yeah. So here's what happened. In the Obama administration, he added a line in this discrimination policy specifically. The policy originally was, you cannot, if you're an EMT worker and you're doing medical emergencies, you cannot discriminate against the patient under basis of sex, religion, or race, I guess is probably the other one. And what Obama did was add a line that's basically clarifies that sex includes if you're trans or not. Before that was added, there actually had been a pretty, notable issue of EMT workers who thought trans people were icky, just like leaving them to die in the street. And when they were subjected to street violence or hate crimes, which happened pretty frequently like a couple decades ago. So that was added. There's no reason to take it out, in my view, but Trump did remove that line. So now if that kind of attitude were to resurface, then it would technically not be illegal.
Was that one of Biden's like 200 executive orders?
I wish it was, but
you'd think that would be one of them. If he not even if he didn't care personally, it was just one of his.
I don't know. Maybe he will later.
His constituents, whatever.
He's only been in office for like 3 months.
Okay. Yeah, this is all new information to me, and I don't.
Like I said, I think you guys could do a whole show on that one. There's definitely nothing is cut and dry, black and white in situations like that. It'd be interesting to see what the arguments for and the arguments.
I would love to hear even one justification for removing that line from the EMT thing.
Well,
the EMT thing, I don't get,
Yeah.
So I don't want to be myopic about it or whatever, but I'm just pointing out reasons why the LGBT community has taken issues with Trump, and that they're not necessarily invalid just because some people.
I appreciate you letting me know that, because people like in my comment section would just like throw in the words like trans rights.
Right, I know, yeah, that's super annoying.
I'd be like,
what about them?
Yeah, so what about it? Yeah. But I didn't really know what they're talking about. And I guess there was some issue there that I was not aware of, because, I listen to things from a very right-leaning source, and they don't talk about.
I don't even think most right.
Kind of make him look bad.
So there's one more thing I wanted to bring up about stuff I didn't like about Trump, and that's environmentalism. So how do you guys feel about that? Do you have positions on this?
I do. You know what?
I know you're a vegan, so I'm gonna try to. I'm curious.
And one of the reasons that I'm a vegan is because that I don't like the destruction of land that raising cattle causes, the amount of water that it uses.
Yeah. I
do care about the environment, but I've also learned, being on the right, that that it can sometimes be a manipulation tactic, a control tactic, that or that, is what I've been led to believe.
Could you give me some examples? Because I haven't necessarily heard that.
When the electricity went out in Texas, were you like fucking windmills?
Well, I mean, actually, I guess the windmills were the only thing keeping the grid going at that point.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
I didn't really blame anybody.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, people were really like
happens.
making fun of Texans for that because they're like, all you had to do was de-ice it. I'm like, why would they think to de-ice something in Texas? Like, are they just planning for the one time that they get a freak snowstorm? Like, I get it.
I mean, it's just never happened before, or almost never happened before.
Yeah, so I don't really blame you guys for that one. It's fine.
I didn't blame anybody.
I do blame that fucking electric company that took advantage of people, though. But that's a whole.
And as far as the environmental thing, you hadn't heard, you hadn't been privy to the fact that people on the right think that it's a manipulation tactic.
Well, could you is there a situation that has led?
Not all scientists agree, and the ones that don't are being silenced.
Most scientists agree on global warming. How do you feel about global warming?
Well, I believe that it's a thing and that it's partially caused by humans. But how much of it, like if we were to completely, okay, so like say COVID like had some positive effect, they were saying, on emissions because, we were out driving around and doing all the things that we normally do. So we would need to keep that up.
Well, not necessarily.
In order for it to have a positive effect. And then it would only have a very negligible effect, especially if the United States was doing anything about it. It would like over the course of 100 years, it would take off like maybe a portion of a percentage of a degree of global warming, and that we don't want to hurt ourselves so much in order to have such a little bit of influence on the environment.
Okay, I understand.
And this is definitely a subject.
Do you even understand what I was saying? Because sometimes I'm like,
okay.
And as far as the whole like environmental thing, I think Mimzi's right. It can be abused, but there also needs to be certain regulations so people aren't getting poisoned, like Love Canal, or But
I have more to say about that too, but I'll let you get your point.
But there are certain times when it becomes ridiculous. Like when you go to California, you have to have paper straws that are in plastic sleeves. Things like that. It's just sometimes people get passionate and take it to a level that's counterproductive.
That's kind of, to me, I feel like the exception more than the rule. So in order to reduce emissions, we were in the Paris Treaty, which had been working. It reduced the amount that the temperature was increasing by about 15%, which is a considerable amount in my opinion.
What? I heard that the Paris Treaty was nothing but a virtue signaling waste of money.
Do you know how many countries are not in it?
No.
Most of them are, basically, is what I'm trying to get at. We are one of the only, and we are definitely the only first world country to drop out of it.
Well, didn't we lower our emissions anyway? Weren't we one of
the people who are running this program have said that one of the major setbacks for it right now was actually that America dropped out of it.
Really? Did you hear anything about this, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I mean, environmentalism isn't my passion or cup of tea, so I really don't have the information on it to argue for or against it.
Okay.
I see people get downright obsessive about it.
Sure. I wouldn't say I'm obsessive about it.
Not saying that you are.
I know.
Remember, I lived in California.
Yeah, you're talking about paper straws. I get it. On a chart of the amount the temperature has been increasing every year, the amount has dropped by 33 degrees from what it would have been.
Because of the Paris Accord, or just because of
the scientists that are climate change scientists have largely agreed that it was because of the Paris Accord.
Okay, cool. Well, we're back in it, right? I
think so, yeah. So that's good. I'm glad.
I mean, I do know there were arguments, against the Paris Accord. Sure. I don't know what they are. That's one of those things that would have to be researched, I mean, it's not a cut and dry thing because, it does result in regulations and other I mean, I'm under the understanding it was selective regulations that certain people involved were adhering to and certain weren't, and things like that. And it was a money grab in some way. And I don't know. Like I said, I know very little about it. I remember hearing people argue it, but I don't know.
It's possible. It's also possible that where the rules were based on how much emissions a country can produce, because our country can produce way more than like some small European country. So there's that. But we're in it. I think that's a good thing. I feel like that's important. It bothers me that Trump has said openly that, and maybe I'm like misunderstanding what he meant here, but he openly said that he thinks a global warming is like a Chinese hoax, stuff like that. I don't know.
I think with the amount of industry in China, if there's global warming,
Oh, I mean,
they're more of the perpetrators.
Okay. Us and China are both the highest perpetrators, and China is definitely like, yeah, they're not innocent. They're very, very bad at
very polluting,
keeping their air clean. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, there is the point that if you regulate the hell out of the United States, that we're just going to go to other countries. We're going to transfer our production over.
Well, the other countries are also in the Paris Agreement too, though.
Where they do have the Paris Agreement too.
Yeah.
What, China?
Oh, in China, yeah, I don't know. I think they are.
China and India, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, are huge polluters, and that if we regulate the shit out of the United States, we're just going to end up shipping it all over where we can afford to have it done over in China and India, where the pollution is going to be much worse, and then we have to ship it all back.
They have been getting better. I think they're in the treaty, but I'd have to look it up. But I was in India before the pandemic happened, and I saw firsthand the amount of steps that they've been trying to take to improve their environmental issues, basically.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I was very glad to see.
That's the only way it's going to work. We can
honestly, they did things that I want us to do here,
it's just
like
get shipped overseas.
Yeah, they basically like a lot of plastic, almost all plastic is not really being used there anymore. They use glass and paper and like cloth, and like I got a meal at a restaurant, and when I got the rest of it to go, they wrapped it in this like muslin basically, and then that's what I took home, and that's like biodegradable. And I was like, this is cool. I wish we had this in America, honestly. It's nice. So
that's really cool. I'm heartened.
I was too, because I know they have a pretty bad pollution issue. And China, I don't know how much they've been like working on it, but I know that there have been steps that have been taken, more so in Hong Kong, which is like, you can't give this, China credit for Hong Kong, obviously, but yeah. What?
I just wanted to bring up something, another thing that people really feel is a positive as far as Trump goes.
Yeah.
Is that he was bringing back energy independence to the United States. That we were.
Well, yeah, but that was like fossil fuel energy.
But isn't that a good thing that we're not shipping?
I'm betting you're not a fan of fracking, James.
Nope. No, why not? And also, like, whenever they
less polluting, fracking is less polluting than coal.
No, here's what they should be doing: nuclear energy.
Yeah, I heard that too, and that sounds great. But isn't there a lot of waste with nuclear energy?
There's not a lot of waste. The only thing is you're very vulnerable. I mean, if we were under attack, and a meltdown at a nuclear reactor is pretty hardcore. It's really clean until it's not.
Yeah, but there are still ways that we can mitigate that. We have islands we could put, nuclear plants on that are more isolated, things like that.
That'd be cool.
But
no, I agree with you, James. I mean, I think it would be a good thing. I just think it's a vulnerable.
Sure, but I mean,
it's dangerous. I mean, look at Chernobyl.
Yeah, I know, I get it, but Chernobyl is not a good example. I think there was the one in Japan. That's the example that I think is a little more recent, I guess.
Yeah.
We had a close call with 3 Mile Island in the States.
Yeah. I'm not saying there's not risks to it, but I think that they outweigh the benefits outweigh the risks.
But you're totally right. I mean, in a perfect world where people would get along, that would be. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good target if somebody's wanting to cause a lot of damage.
Yeah, but do you really think a country is going to attack us?
You never know. Let's see if
not
while we have guns.
China would attack us.
Let's say they do attack us and they blow up our reactor and we have a meltdown and then we just nuke the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Which is what America would do.
I think that they could attack our electrical grid. That's something that
they could. They could also attack our oil things, Either way, no matter what energy we get, it's going to be vulnerable in some capacity, just in a different way, I guess. So
it's definitely full of what else. And I agree with you, James. Because it's a clean, efficient energy. It's just if it goes bad, it goes really bad. So, I mean, that's where the argument is.
I get it. But anyway, I mean, it's still less to me, like I said, the benefits outweigh the risks.
I just heard that fracking was a cleaner alternative to coal and that we shouldn't be hating on it so much.
It has negative impacts on the environment around it, and there are towns that live around fracking sites that have a lot of negative consequences from it, from my understanding. So it may not be the worst
Like
thing.
their water catches on fire?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. That sounds like it would suck.
Yeah, that was Ohio. The other issue is the Keystone Pipeline. It bothers me when Native communities, which are sovereign, are disrespected, especially like territorially. And that's what happened with the Keystone Pipeline. They protested building the Keystone Pipeline. Obama put a hold on it for that duration, and that didn't go forward on it. Because it would have just gone straight through all of their land, and it would have, been very subjected to.
Did they really have a problem with that, Indian people?
Yeah.
They did. I don't know. I thought maybe we were exaggerating that.
No, it's leaked like 12 times since it's been started, and that's a lot considering the amount of time that it's been worked on. Because Trump is the one who actually moved forward on the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah.
And those leaks are big.
We don't have pipelines. We're going to have to move it with trucks.
Here's the thing. That specific kind of energy resource we just wouldn't use, which we hadn't been using it before either. Because you can't really move it cost efficiently unless you have this pipeline. So the alternative isn't to move it a different way. It's to just not have that, which means that it really is no different than how it was before the project started, but also, we still need to be moving to cleaner energy anyway. So to me, I get why people moved forward on it, but it's still more of a capitalist reason and not it's disrespectful to Native communities. It literally is taking their sovereign lands that they own and just saying, well, fuck you, we're just going to put it there anyway, even though they
land doesn't really take up though. It's just a big pipe, right? You just dig
it's spilling into their land whenever it spills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's what they protested. They protested it because they were worried it was going to spill, and they were like, no, it's not going to spill, it'll be fine. And then it spilled 12 times. So not great, in my opinion. So I don't like that. I like that Biden has ceased the construction of the Keystone Pipeline again. So that is another reason. These are just my reasons why I didn't vote for Trump. So Keystone Pipeline, Paris Accord, Iran deal.
Yeah, it's been very eye-opening, James, and I didn't want to hear it. I did.
And I'm not saying that you're wrong or dumb or anything for voting for Trump. I totally get it. To me, I just focus on this stuff and I just ignore all of the culture around it, and that's just how I vote.
I think we could all stand to be a little bit more like that, but the culture makes things fun.
I was about to say fun. I was like, I was like, yeah, but it's more fun, I guess. If everybody, yeah. If there's an identity attached to it, this isn't an exciting identity that I can attach to myself, I guess. I mean, I say I'm a progressive, but it's not like I can.
Yeah, I went to all the Trump trains, not all of them, but I went to Trump trains and everything. I mean, it was fun.
Yeah, I bet. I bet those rallies got pretty wild.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, I feel like we haven't given you enough time.
No, it's all good. I mean, I don't have a problem with the pipeline myself, but I'm very simple as far as that go. If the gas is cheap, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think that it should be okay to have the government disregard the Native sovereignty?
I think it's a good trade-off for the casinos.
I mean, the casinos are a trade-off for the fact that they were mutilated.
Their land, yeah. That's already a trade-off.
Right.
We already made that.
We're already in debt here.
Yeah.
I was just kind of being facetious with that one, but I was seeing if I could push some buttons.
Got called out.
So, I mean, it's the respect thing. It makes me wonder what kind of agreements were made beforehand to even have the start.
It's actually, there wasn't an agreement, and there have been lawsuits that those Native tribe nations have been trying to levy against it because of that.
Right. Man, I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't capitalize on it.
Well, I think they genuinely care about their community not being polluted.
Well,
probably more important than capitalizing on it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, maybe. there's definitely a debate that goes with all that stuff.
My point is, Trump started the project. I didn't like it. Biden ended it, and I don't see any reason for us to keep it because we have.
I mean, Trump didn't start it; he just continued it. It was
well,
started.
I mean, I guess he didn't like pitch it, but he was the one who began construction on it.
Right, and I get it. Trying to make the United States. What's that?
Jobs too.
Yeah, the thing. Oh, I can tell you stuff about the jobs too, because that was a point that I had taken notes on. So yeah, it was said that it was supposed to provide like, I don't know, 100,000 jobs or something like that. It was shown in the actual like accounts records, I don't know, whatever accountants do, that it would actually only provide 2,000 jobs for the first 2 years, and then after that 35 jobs, and that's it. So it's not like it's not enough jobs, in my opinion, to justify the issues that it brings.
And again, it's not something I looked in. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody that this pro pipeline has a bunch of reasons why it's a good thing too.
Yeah, usually the reasons are like that they want cheap gas, but I don't think that's
a pretty good reason to me.
Well, to me, I would rather have a planet than cheap gas, I guess. So I would rather just focus on trying to get clean energy. That's, I think, all I can think of offhand. So if there's any things that you guys want to...
How about opportunity zones?
Yeah, I haven't done a huge amount of research on those.
Neighborhoods and all of that. Was that a good thing that Trump did?
Maybe. That might be. I haven't done enough research to have formed an opinion. I looked into it a little bit, but I couldn't find enough solid information to make me confident in it, I guess. But I'm also not confident in saying it was bad or that it didn't exist or whatever. So.
Okay, well that's.
I can give you that one.
Okay, yay.
Just out of curiosity, do you think like what the media attacks on him were totally validated, or do you think that it was propaganda and they were going over?
I think the media is invalid altogether on all fronts, both sides.
Yeah, I mean, they're just they're just making money,
Yeah, exactly. They're literally just
anti-Trump sells it. That he was a gold mine for them, But
so also, Fox News made a shit ton of money as well, so it's not just the left that made money.
Right. Yeah, he was a gold mine for.
He was a gold mine for all of the media. He's very colorful, and he's a media-focused individual as it is. So
that they're not all that bad.
I don't think you guys are all homophobic, racist, Nazis. I think that's ridiculous. Like, why would literally half the country just be evil? Doesn't really make any sense.
I know, and that's the one thing I think. I'm like, really? Like, you all really think that half your country is evil?
Like, I've a lot of people that I generally respect otherwise
say this battle between good and evil, and that we're just horrible people.
I know. Well, when the other side is evil, then you can justify anything.
And I think they're just shocked and surprised. They're just like, whoa, I had no idea half of our country is an evil racist. Like, it's a revelation to them too. And they're just like, wow, we need to come out against this.
The real issue to me,
white supremacists,
Yeah, I don't think you guys are any of that shit. The thing that is the problem to me, I think that a lot of conservative policies have roots in racism and other isms and whatnot that have stuck and sort of maintained in that community, not necessarily the community of voters and constituents, but the community of politicians. So to me, if I'm going to call anyone racist, it's going to be like politicians. And I'm not saying Trump specifically, but like there's plenty of racist politicians, or ones that are like maybe subconsciously biased in ways that they don't realize, because there's a lot of systems in place that do disadvantage certain groups of people. I know that we all don't want to talk about culture wars and whatnot, so I'm not going to.
I like talking about culture wars.
Well, yeah, but not in this episode.
I want to talk about it.
What are your feelings?
Like, yeah.
Right. What are your feelings on those that say that only white people can be racist?
I completely disagree. I think anybody of any race can be racist. The thing is, there's institutionalized racism. And
systematic racism and institutionalized racism is different than somebody having a moronic opinion.
Right. And the thing is, you can't blame all regular white people for that, because it's systemic and we're not all the system. Like, we all have a limited amount of control over that. So that you blame on politicians again. So to me, like, if you're gonna try to tackle social justice issues, like going around and calling other people names and accusing them of things is not the way to do it. I do think it's helpful to educate people on issues that they may not have known about. Like, for example, like I said, we're going to do an episode probably pretty soon that I'm going to talk about ways in which Black people actually are oppressed in America that people don't always know about. And I don't want to like say things like white privilege. I just think it's good for people to see things from a perspective that they haven't experienced personally.
I'm looking forward to hearing others' perspectives on this too, because I know that I've, kind of been in a bit of an echo chamber when it comes to,
And you've been driven there because of people saying that you're just automatically racist because you're white.
The problem with tribalism is people have a tendency, when I'm talking about putting blinders on and amplifying, they'll pick out the craziest of the other side and try to paint that as what everybody thinks on that side.
Absolutely.
And that really goes both ways.
I fell for that too. I fell for that too.
Well, she probably thought all liberals were like SJWs and stuff too, right?
Yeah, I did.
So both sides fall for it.
I didn't know that the like people like you existed. I thought that it kind of went with the territory, and that's like the whole walk away movement too.
I know, and that's the thing about like the walk away movement. A lot of them
just wanted to walk away from being woke, from the woke left, but they didn't necessarily walk away from being progressive.
Well, I would hope not, but I feel like
they had to.
They're voting for politicians that aren't progressive, so I don't know how much.
Well, because they thought they had to. They're voting against
but like
is what it is.
I don't know, because you're one of these people, right? Like you're like kind of like a walk away person, right?
Yeah, I am. I did a walk away video, even though I'm not really part of the movement or anything.
So how do you feel voting?
Identified with them.
How do you feel voting for Trump affects that problem specifically, like people on the left having culture wars against you?
Well, actually, it probably just hurt it in the long run, didn't it?
Yeah, possibly. I think so.
Yeah, I guess I was just afraid of them, like I guess you'd say, like political correctness being made into law.
Oh yeah, that's not ever gonna happen.
Okay, because that's just something that we on the right would be afraid of, and we would want to vote for Trump or someone like Trump to avoid.
Sure, I could see that fear. So I didn't want to put words in your mouth and assume that was like the thought process, but like that's kind of what I figured it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not going to be any mandates for political correctness necessarily.
Well, like hate speech laws, and I mean, isn't that exist in Canada and in like UK?
But we're not those countries, so.
Okay, well, yeah, I know a lot of people want us to be more like Canada, and it scares me.
Well, I don't necessarily think. I mean, yeah, there's probably people who want us to be more like Canada, but Canada is not just that one. Like, there's like different parts of Canada that have different kinds of laws and whatnot, and like I don't know, there's good things about Canada and there's bad things about Canada, just like any other country. Same thing with the UK, although right now they're kind of overrun by Tories, which are shitty. So I don't really like the direction they're going right now. But we still have the Constitution, and overturning the Constitution would be really hard, and I don't feel like that's likely to happen.
You don't think we could get support for overturning the Constitution?
Not really.
In time?
Not enough.
If we no? Okay, good.
I mean, do you know any Americans that would be for overturning the Constitution or going against the amendments of the Constitution?
I have heard that people on the left, even in government, do feel that way. They think it's
I haven't seen any personally, like
outdated.
Well, I mean, Biden was speaking on the new gun laws, and he was basically saying that in a nutshell, that the Constitution wasn't in stone and could be easily amended.
Yeah.
Well, I can see why that would be worrying, but it's not likely to go anywhere, because even if one, president or whatever, or like one or two politicians feels that way, that's not enough support to actually overturn it. The thing is, the majority of Americans, citizens, would not want that. So I don't think most politicians are likely to risk it.
I hope so. I like I like living in your world, James.
This is me being skeptical.
Not paranoid.
Yeah.
Like we on the right often are.
Well, cheers to you for holding the right balance of skepticism and optimism, because
Yeah, I try to like not be completely grimdark all the time, I guess.
Miss
I feel like
Fallon
this
needs
has
to
wrapped
go
up our
out.
conversation pretty well, but thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you guys for having me on. Like I said, I think what you're doing is awesome. Love you to death, Mims.
Would you be willing to come on again?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
We can talk
absolutely.
about more things. Do you want to plug anything before you leave real quick?
Just look up www.humanbloodartist.com or Google
I'll put a
search.
link.
Google search Ryan Almighty.
You don't have to Google search anything. I'll put links. You just let me know.
You got it.
Send me links to your links, and they're going to be in the description below.
Yeah.
You are awesome. Thank you guys so much. I had a blast.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. Like I said, you guys are doing a great thing. I can't stress that enough.
Thank you very much for helping us do it. Okay, so what I don't know what this video is. You sent it to me and you want me to watch it and respond to it. So that's what we're gonna do.
We're going to do a response video on Kimberly Guilfoyle at the Republican National Convention. She got a lot of shit for this, for being super culty.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely give you my opinion on how she comes off and what I think of what she says. So
yeah, she mostly got shit from the left, obviously, but I think there's a lot of people on the right that kind of saw their point of view as well. But I also just kind of thought it was interesting to see how she represents a lot of Trump supporters in the way that she's talking right here, in the way that we see Trump. You know,
I think I get what you're saying. You're saying you view Trump similarly to how she's talking about it, and people thought she sounded culty. So this is probably related to the fact that people think that Trump supporters are culty.
Yes, exactly. You are so good at saying stuff that I'm trying to say sometimes.
It's funny that people say that, because when I talk, I just feel like I have no idea what the fuck I'm saying, like 90% of the time.
You don't come off like that.
I'm glad.
You know, I feel the same way about when I'm saying stuff that I'm just.
Yeah, you've been able to articulate yourself. All right, I'm gonna play the video now.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle. I speak to you tonight as a mother, a former prosecutor, a Latina, and a proud American. And yes, a proud supporter of President Donald J. Trump. Why? Because he is the president who delivers for America. He built the greatest economy the world has ever known for the strivers, the working class, and middle.
Okay. I remember you bringing up the economy, and I also didn't get a chance to bring this up briefly, but the economy was increasing under Obama and then just continued in the same trajectory when Trump took over. So what I can say as a positive is that he didn't wreck it, at least not until the pandemic happened. But he also didn't create it either. You know what I mean?
Well, there's economists out there that would actually disagree with you. I think.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's economists that would disagree, but there are also economists.
I think a majority of economists agree.
No, I don't think so.
No,
The majority of economists, as far as I've seen, have shown that it's pretty much just a trajectory, and it's not like he didn't.
But a plurality.
He didn't create it out of nothing. Like the economy was doing well when he inherited administration.
Okay, yeah, but he did contribute to the.
I'm not saying he didn't contribute anything, although I would argue personally that I don't think he made positive contributions to the economy. My view of the economy was quite negative under him, but I understand why you and others think otherwise.
That is the message that we got.
Right.
A lot of. So we were very proud of what he did for the economy.
That's the thing. Like, I know this is like probably a big point of contention in a way, but like the biggest thing people have to say about Trump is that they feel he's really good at running the economy. And to me, I still see him as a con man and a failed businessman, and I just don't see his effects on the economy as being good. So I kind of just don't agree. I don't necessarily think that Biden is like the best economist ever, but I don't think he's going to wreck it or anything. But I don't think I don't have positive opinions about Trump in terms of the economy personally. So
okay, well, we were fed a lot of hype about it.
Yeah, I get it.
On the right.
First, President Trump is the law and order president. Now, presidential leadership is not guaranteed. It is a choice. Biden, Harris, and the rest of the socialists will fundamentally change.
She really called them socialists.
Yeah, we all call Biden and Harris socialists.
They literally have no socialist policies whatsoever.
Really? Not even Kamala?
No, not especially not Kamala. She's like the least socialist person
She
I've ever
made
seen.
that video.
Yeah, that was a lie. That was probably just her trying to beef up the left because nothing that either of them have ever done is socialist. So if you guys are worried about socialism with those two, don't be.
Okay, thanks.
No worries. I just think it's so funny that they always keep calling them socialists. And like, I would love a bit more socialism personally. So every time I see stuff like this, I'm just like, man, I really wish this was true. I wish they were socialists. But anyway, all right.
Change this nation. They want open borders, closed schools, dangerous amnesty, and will
Wait. Close schools, what does that mean?
It's the COVID thing.
Oh, okay, got it. Well, I also want closed schools in that situation. I think we need to get rid of COVID first.
Officially send your jobs back to China while they get rich. They will defund, dismantle, and destroy America's law enforcement. When you are in trouble and need police, don't count on the Democrats. As a first-generation American, I know how dangerous their socialist agenda is. My mother, Mercedes, was a special education teacher from Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. My father, also an immigrant, came to this nation in pursuit of the American dream. Now, I consider it my duty to fight to protect that dream. Rioters must not be allowed to destroy our cities. Human sex drug traffickers should not be allowed to cross our border. The same socialist policies which destroyed places like Cuba and Venezuela must not take root in our cities and our schools.
To be honest, like, I don't want to be like too negative, but this is a lot of fear mongering, and I don't know if she knows it is, but I kind of suspect she does because, like, bringing up the socialism constantly, because again, there's literally no socialism in the Biden administration at all. Wish there was, but there isn't. Bringing up that a lot and then comparing it to like Cuba or like Venezuela or like literally communist countries is, to me, like fear mongering. It's like a huge exaggeration. It's like not even close, honestly. It's just like I wouldn't even say it's an exaggeration. It's literally like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just like a false analogy. So I don't really watch, like, you know, you guys as people talk all that much, or mine.
Yeah, I thought it would be interesting for you to see it.
Yeah, I mean, I watch people talk about it, but yeah, it is interesting. But it's mostly just making me be like, wow, they are really fear mongering. I mean, I get why you guys are afraid of these things because
this is the rhetoric that we hear.
Yeah, this is what they're telling you. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, that makes sense, but it's also like kind of sad in a way. So, all right, I'll keep watching.
Do you support the cancel culture, the cosmopolitan elites of Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Joe Biden?
I mean, it's smart for her to bring up cancel culture, even though it's literally irrelevant to the actual election, because I know most people that voted for Trump like hate it. So, I mean, it's smart.
Who blame America first. Do you think America is to blame? Or do you believe in American greatness? Believe in yourself, in President Trump, in individual and personal responsibility. They want to destroy this country. And
Wait, is she saying that the Democrats want to destroy America?
Yes.
I mean, what is your opinion of that statement, out of curiosity?
That would be something I would agree with it. I'm trying to like learn, like maybe kind of unlearn
but, I mean,
a little bit.
Putting aside your views on like policies and how they would be implemented and whatnot, and just talking on motive alone, do you think the motive of President Biden is to destroy America?
I know what you're saying right here, and I'm also trying to look at it from another point of view because, like we were just saying, half of America is evil.
Right, that's the thing. You know? It's like I'm comparing it to that.
The Democrats want to destroy America? Like, is that a logical thing to say? Biden himself hates America and wants to destroy it. No.
Okay, that's all I wanted, like a clarification on. Like, I know, I get the.
Yeah, we just think that they're their policies that maybe they think they're doing good,
Sure.
but in the end result would be for them to destroy America. Plus, we also think that the politicians are corrupt.
Well, they
And
are. But I mean, so is
and they might
your
just intend it for
politicians.
themselves because they want power and they don't care.
Yeah,
But
like
they
all politicians are corrupt, right, left, all corrupt. Well, maybe not like every single one, but like, I don't know, 90% of them.
Well, that's part of the reason that we liked Trump or trusted Trump more.
He's corrupt too, though.
Yeah, well, we didn't see it that way.
I
We
know.
saw him as an outsider,
I-
not a
I get
pure
that.
politician.
I understand, especially from the beginning, why people have that impression, especially like I think if I hadn't known his past as much, and like I said, if I hadn't already been really involved in politics, I probably maybe even would have voted for him because I hated Hillary. Just because I see the appeal, like I do get it. So
Yeah, I'm glad you get it, because I just really want people out there to know that there is a method to this madness, as far as the people on the right voting for
yeah,
Trump.
I want people to know that too.
I want people to know that maybe we were culty about it, and maybe we jumped on the train and we didn't really look at all of the implications.
I think you guys were manipulated on purpose.
And we were manipulated also by Fox News without realizing it. But
Absolutely.
we're not evil.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly the message I'm trying to get across.
Not
Because
racist.
the thing is, I want, and like I said, I don't care if it's right or left. I want progressive politics. It could be conservative progressive. It could be liberal progressive, as long as it's progressive. And the only way to move in that direction is honestly, first of all, to stop listening to the media and politicians, because none of them are fucking progressive. But also to unite the country more, and that's going to require getting people on the right to also want progressive politics. And you're not going to do that if all you do is alienate them and call them names and assume that they're all evil, racist, homophobic, terrorist Nazis.
Absolutely.
How are you going to educate people on issues if you're starting from that point,
Yes, we're not going to try to listen to somebody who's calling us names.
I wouldn't blame you for that.
Right or left.
Yeah. This is a funny frame to pause on.
So it's like she's gonna.
We have fought for and hold dear. They want to steal your liberty, your freedom. They want to control what you see and think and believe so that they can control how you live. His promise was to put America first, and he has.
One thing that I also don't get is infrastructure. To me, is something that would actually really, America needs more infrastructure. Infrastructure would benefit us a lot as far as becoming the best country in the world, because right now our infrastructure is like a C- compared to other countries. And I feel like we have enough money and power that we can do better than that. And so I really want to see more government funds diverted to infrastructure on my side as well. Like Biden's infrastructure plan, in my opinion, is like a fourth of what it should be. So to me, that's what it would mean to make America great. But I feel like that's not what she's talking about.
I like that whole infrastructure thing. Yeah, I think that would create jobs and.
Yeah, that's the idea. Create jobs, professionals. The thing is, like, when you say things like that you want people to take responsibility for themselves and things like that, there's not like Democrat policies that prevent that. I know that people think welfare does, but it's so hard to get on welfare anyway. It's like, I don't know. I think that's an exaggerated issue, I guess. And like the best way to have self-reliant citizens and more independent citizens that don't need government assistance is infrastructure. Because when you have the infrastructure, then all of these marginalized demographics are, not as disadvantaged. So they don't need those kinds of services, or like they don't need anybody to pull them up. They can pull themselves up, by their bootstraps or whatever. So infrastructure would be great. I wish that was what she was talking about.
What do you think she is talking about?
Honestly, a lot of this kind of just sounds like nothing. Like she's just kind of saying things that sound good, which they do sound good. But I think she's saying things like, we're going to make America, great again. Like what? I don't know what that means,
I
honestly.
think it might kind of mean pre-culture war,
Maybe.
really.
But again, the culture war isn't because of politicians, and I don't think that Trump has benefited the culture war at all. Obviously,
Benefited the reduction or the
yeah,
ending.
reducing it.
Yeah, he did. He kind of stirred it up. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Again, well, I mean, he brought a lot of things to the forefront, maybe, and maybe for the better or for the worst.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not saying like I'm not gonna blame him for the culture war. Obviously, like it's not because of him. I do think it was exacerbated by his administration. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing is, I guess, something that remains to be seen because we don't really know the final outcome of everything that's going on right now.
Well, we're trying to mitigate some of the damage right now, as far as I can see. You know, the damage caused by the culture war. You and I.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, like we say, be the change that you want to see. So that's all we can do about the culture war is set a good example and talk about it. So for sure.
Yeah. There's a saying that somebody said about him that I thought was really good. It was something like he wasn't the murderer, he was the coroner.
Elaborate. What does that mean?
Well, I don't know if that was exactly the one they used, but he wasn't the cause, he was the symptom.
Like he wasn't the arbiter, he was the outcome.
Get it? Yes, he was the outcome.
I got it. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I agree.
You are capable, you are qualified, you are powerful, and you have the ability to choose your life and determine your destiny. Don't let the Democrats take you for granted. Don't let them step on you. Don't let them destroy your families, your lives, and your future. Don't let them kill future generations because they told you and brainwashed you and fed you lies that you weren't good enough.
That's literally what is happening right now, in my view.
Manifest and be the change in this country that you dream, that you hope, that you believe in. Stand for an American president who is fearless, who believes in you, and who loves this country and will fight for her. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
Is she awesome?
Okay, hang on. Let me stop sharing. Okay, my thoughts are I don't necessarily think it's like culty. To me, it's fear mongering, a lot of fear mongering, but it's a smart speech. It is appealing to exactly what it would take to appeal to the Trump demographic enough to rile them up. So to me,
be riled up. Yeah, I was enjoying it right now. I was like, yeah.
I know, I could tell. But yeah, to me, like it's very manipulative and it is a lot of things that are not true. But I'm not saying that like my side doesn't also hold speeches that are like a bunch of fucking fear mongering and not true and rhetoric and stuff like that. So it's like, it's not that it's just you guys doing it. So I wouldn't say that it's like a right cult or something. It's like, if you watch Democrat rallies, you'll get identity politics in them, even though they're not doing anything about it. Like they still bring it up all the time because that is a virtue signal and it is a way to get people to want to vote for them more because they're like, oh, if I vote for Biden, I'm giving rights to the marginalized people. And if I vote for Trump, then white privilege and racism, etc. So it's like both sides are doing it, but it is still very much manipulation and fear tactics. Like I would like to hear more about Trump's platforms and policies and specific actions than like, the left is socialist and they're going to take away all of your rights and destroy the police and et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? And I would like to hear on my side more of our policies whenever they do speeches as well, and not just like, the right is a bunch of racist, homophobic Nazis and whatnot. So that's how I feel about it.
All right. Well, that was a really good take. I mean, I didn't know how you were going to react to that video, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't know if you were going to be like all fair and unbiased about it, or if you were just going to be completely insulted by her rhetoric. Or
I mean, I was insulted, but it's not like I don't get it,
Okay, because I guess I could really see how a lot of people on the left would not get it. They would just.
I could too. Well, I can see why it would be
that speech.
The thing is, when you are trying to look at it from an objective point of view, then you realize that she's not really doing anything that any other politician wouldn't do in that situation. But if you're on the opposite side, everything she's saying, like I said, is fear mongering and lies and manipulation. So it's kind of understandable to be offended by it if you're on the left, in the same way that it is completely understandable for you guys to be offended when the left does it against you. So it's not like, I don't think I would blame anybody on the left for being like pissed off about that speech. Like, but me personally, just because of the way that I view things, like, I don't like it, but I get why she made it, and I don't think it was like I said, it's nothing new.
So how do you think it went today, James? You think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, we didn't yell at each other. I thought it was a good discussion that was healthy, and we got a lot of issues brought up and talked about and learned about, and all kinds of stuff. So Ryan is a very nice person, and I can't like be mad at him. So I really appreciated having an opportunity to speak with him as sort of a moderator, so that you wouldn't feel so alone this time, Mimzi. We had Grayson on, and you were the odd one out in that one.
Odd one out in that one, yeah, but it was okay. I was fine with it. I had someone who wasn't against in all the stuff that I was saying. I was having to constantly defend myself, but
I think it was beneficial for you to have that, because as you've mentioned, like, you have feelings about Trump. And I think this is another benefit of this episode and talking about Trump, to get that out of the system, is because you express that you have feelings about it that are strong and like confusing, and you're kind of anxious to like hear things that are anti-Trump.
Absolutely. I'm glad that I took this little mini journey here, though, because it's made it so much easier for me to hear.
And I appreciate that you were willing to do that. I'm totally fine with the compromise that we made in terms of having someone else that also is pro-Trump, and was very good at playing like a devil's advocate in a lot of situations, and brought up a lot of counterpoints that are things that I didn't consider. Like, I will say that I usually hear the exact same arguments all the time from people on the right or people who voted for Trump, and I didn't get that impression from him. I felt like he had different things to say. So
yeah, I did too. I learned a lot today. I learned a lot from you. I learned things from him too. I learned things from myself,
Yeah, for sure. That's very sweet. I like that sentiment. Anyway, let's go ahead and promote our stuff, because we have to do that as well.
Yeah. I have an Etsy store, a Snortlings Hollow Etsy shop. And I'll put a link below, because I make miniatures and doll houses, really cute stuff you can't find anywhere else.
Very, very unique.
Yeah, pretty unique. Yeah, not a lot of people doing exactly what I'm doing out there. So, buy a piece of original miniature fairy art from Mimzi and have a piece of Snortlings Hollow of your very own. And I really do also want to promote this. Well, it's still considered, the name of it is the Snortlings Hollow merch shop, and it's a Teespring store, but we do have t-shirts on there for Common Ground. And I'd like for you to support James and I by going and buying a Common Ground t-shirt. And we also have a Tumblr, and we just ordered them for ourselves. So I'm next episode.
Sweet. We're gonna have
I'll have my Tumblr, and he'll have his t-shirt. And you can see how great they look. It's the logo that we like kind of co-designed together, and it's pretty cool. So, you should be able to be proud to support it, and support one of your new favorite channels.
The new best podcast. If you want to support the message of unity and listening to each other, then that's a great way to do it.
I have some books, some kids' books that I did. I'll put a link below. Those are interesting. When I wrote them, I was kind of in an echo chamber, more of a bubble than I am now, but no regrets. They're cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't regret anything you've done.
No, I don't. What do you have, James?
I have also an Etsy store, which is Lacroix Grimoire, and I will link that as well. And that has all of the stuff that I make. I make art, I bind books, I make jewelry, just kind of like indecisive and can't decide what I want to do. And I like doing all of those things. I also have my own channel, which we will also link. It's called The Grand Cross, and I do tarot readings, and I talk shit about various influencers, things like that. That one is just me. I probably will have Mimzi on there eventually when I start actually doing stuff with it more seriously, though. But yeah, so.
So I guess that wraps it up for today's episode. I hope y'all enjoyed. I know we did.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
And stay tuned for the next episode of Common Ground because we got one coming soon.
Yes, also, I always forget to do this. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.